Morning. How are you guys? How's Napa?
Fair. We're fair. Uh, we've had rain this year.
I
There
know
is
that's
that.
good.
Yeah. We're still waiting for more rain, of course, but it's a beginning.
Are you expecting more rain?
Oh, it's just the
Good.
beginning. We have that rain season in 6 months.
Yeah, I
Start-
heard that.
Starts now, and I hope it continues through March.
So listen, it's great to see you again. And it's been a couple years, and I know a lot has happened at Cain, particularly last year with the terrible fire. And I didn't get the chance to talk to you and Sam. That's a terrible story. I'm sorry about that. And but I hope that you recovered and everything. That you're rebuilding everything. What exactly are you going to do now?
We're up in an isolated location.
Hmm.
And so our real focus is on the vineyard because the principle that we have is, it's not a fancy winery in a showy location. It's about a vineyard. And so our focus has been entirely on the vineyard and cleaning up the remains of the winery. Honestly, not rebuilding the winery, but just getting rid of all the debris.
Okay. No,
The vineyard
I've been there a couple times. And it really is an amazing vineyard, and I'm happy that I guess some people have even given up because they're always they're worried about all the fire situation. It's great that you're holding on and you have such amazing ecosystem there.
Well, it certainly opens up some questions about the future, but we think that places like this deserve to have vineyards, and the challenges we have to learn to live with and work with, not deny. So two separate problems there.
So what happened then? So after 17, what vintages do you have after 17?
18
And 21.
18.
and 21. Yeah.
And 21.
Okay. Yeah.
We lost all
So
of
19 was lost in the fire. Bummer.
And 20.
I'm sorry.
Of course. Yeah. 20 was half in and looking pretty good. And 19, we thought we had a very, very pretty Cain 5 in the barrel. We were happy with the whole thing, but obviously all lost in the fire. Yeah.
What are your thoughts about forest management and the whole thing now? What can Napa do? Now, I'm interested because I also own a house in St. Helena, and I like being there and part of the community when I can. What are your thoughts? Because you with all that happened.
I think that that's precisely what we're all concerned about. I think that there's a number of things we have to do. The vineyard will be difficult to protect, quite honestly. With regard to the forest, I don't think our culture will change quickly because we have a lot of issues. But what has got is basically 80 years, well, maybe I'll say at least 70 years of successful wildland fire suppression. And the result is accumulation of fuel that is beyond anything that may have ever existed in nature in our valley. So we've suppressed fire to such an extent that now when a fire gets going, it can easily get out of control. So perhaps in the long run, we will want to learn how to do controlled prescribed burns, prescribed controlled burns. And I don't know how we can do it, both culturally, and it's complex because, of course, we're also conscious of our carbon footprint, and
That's true.
is releasing carbon. So, it's like you can't win for losing. There's a lot of air pollution issues associated with it. No easy answers. I think it's possible to create structures that are essentially safe from fire. I don't think we've done that much yet, but I think it's entirely possible. And I think that we can, we have visited vineyards that have fared reasonably well in in the midst of fire, and I think we can figure out how to do that too.
Like, it's interesting that you say that, because, for example, if you spend some time, if you look at structures, like you say, Australia has fireproof structures in areas known for bushfires. And I was thinking exactly the same thing, at a year ago with the fire, and I researched it a little bit. And but I don't even know if we can get the materials in California or whatever, but it's definitely, we could really improve on that. And then the forest management is so articulate, what you say, that 80 years of doing nothing. And I didn't even think of that. When I lived in Italy, in Tuscany, there was forest management every winter, cleaning the dead growth around the trees, cutting limbs off. But of course, that was burnt, just in giant bonfires. And like you said, that would be really bad as far as the carbon footprint. So there's definitely some big issues there. And I was interested. I know that, Chris, you're really focused on things like that, and you spend so much time just out in the field, in the mountains, in your vineyards. You must think about it all the time.
Yeah, but there's no easy answer, and obviously, what you've pointed out is that we're conflicted, to say the least.
Yes. All right. Well, I guess we'll leave it at that. But fingers crossed that something has to be done, as you say. Otherwise, nature just takes its natural course, which we don't want to suffer from all the time. So,
and again, I don't want to say 80 years of doing nothing. It's actually maybe 70, because I'll calculate it from 1950 forwards. But I'd say 70 years of active fire suppression, which is actually preserved a tremendous amount of vegetation, which becomes what fire people call fuel. So in fact, the situation is far worse than there ever been natural fires occurring all this time.
That's right. Exactly. Wow.
Yeah. We've exacerbated our situation. We've taken it to an end point. And so now we're going to have to figure out what next.
To keep the discussion going. So tell me about 2021. I've heard pretty good things about it, a short crop. What are your thoughts with your vineyards up there?
It was an easy harvest, super easy. And there were, Katie's laughing because there were so few grapes, but we could see how everything was going everywhere. And it's true that there were fewer grapes than normal for us. Essentially very, very little, just a couple, 15 tons or something like that, a fraction of our normal yield. But it was an easy harvest with no particularly difficult moments. For those who were looking for massive ripeness, I think they were able to wait and get that. There was no dramatic hot spell to try to evade. And as you say, overall, the yields were down. So it should turn out to be a really good year. Definitely.
Right.
And 2020, of course, a lot of people have questions about smoke as well, at least for the macerated wines. And so that, there's a question mark on 20, but 21 for the North Coast, at least, should be very good, at least.
Fantastic. Yeah, I heard some extraordinary figure that something around 70% of the grapes in Napa in 2020 were just left on the vine because of those fires. But there's the production is certainly going to be much less. Although it's interesting, a few people like Harlan and others picked really early. They picked in August, and they, before the fire, or right when they decided to pick right away when the first one kicked off. And that was interesting because there's been a sort of rethink too. They're sort of, oh my God, we made really amazing wines. And so that's sort of interesting that there's a rethink about picking times. And of course, that'll change the structure of a lot of wines in a good way, I think. But
I'm sure. I'm glad to hear that they did that. I didn't know it, but this is a guy who comes with me to a tasting in Burgundy, and it's like maybe he's getting religion. Sorry.
Yeah, I know. It's pretty, but it's really cool. No, they're excited. And I think that, that's really a good move. So we had the 17. What did you think of 17? There was a year with some pretty serious heat spikes. We also had, let's see, we had the fire also, but most of the serious people had already picked. But what are your thoughts about 17?
I wouldn't say most of the series had already picked. For us, I think 17 is, for us is definitely, it's not that we picked before the fire. We picked about half of what we were going to pick before the fire.
It's showing really nice firmness and balance, and with a nice sense of austerity, and also has nice mushroom and pine needle bark, all those characters that if you walk in your vineyards, you sort of like smell all that. It's really cool. One thing I found in 17s in general, that they actually, and even on the valley floor, they have a nice firmness, most of them, because people picked earlier. They were, worried about that, and the wines came out, they came out fresher than you may have thought. No,
I think you're right, and so fresh is the word. Certainly it applies for us as well, and I think it's all about picking before the fire.
Really nicely done. And I like how it's very, I don't know, for me, I like drinking wines with freshness and firmness, and it really has it's very drinkable now. It's not, you don't necessarily have to age it. And it's 9 a.m. I'm enjoying it. I haven't had a coffee, but so it's really good.
Yeah.
How do you like
16 then?
It's hard not to put it in the context of the preceding vintages. So, we had Napa doesn't have a lot of cold years, but 11 was relatively cool. And then we had 12, 13, and 14, which are really maybe, 12 was maybe the beginning of the drought, so it wasn't really affected by the drought. 13 and 14, and some people would say 15, but 15 in the end, there was a fair amount of rain. It just came late, and it was in springtime. And so 15 may have had slightly reduced yields because of the drought of 13 and 14. But it wasn't a droughty year in the way that 13 and 14 in particular were, relatively low rainfall. Compared to all of these, 16 was neither drought nor particularly hot.
Goldilocks.
Well, could be.
Yeah.
It was, and some people could say it was colder, or maybe in the shadow of these other years, without the same intensity.
And again, the aromas are very floral and forest floor, and it's, again, none of those, well, your wines seldom have that character, but that sort of big ripe fruit.
For me, on the palate, the 16 is more complete, and it is not a bigger one. It doesn't have more substance, but it just feels slightly fuller and rounder. And
I agree.
And yet it's not a big wine, I admit. It just got a nice polish to it, not quite the edge of the 17. And
I totally agree that the tannins are much softer, and they have a beautiful texture to them, and the wine's really succulent on the end, like really beautiful softness and length to it. It'll age wonderfully. It's one of those wines that is just so harmonious.
And okay, so it's a colder vintage from a colder vineyard, and this will just truck right along for another 10 years without any real issues, I think. But this is the one that Katie is currently selling to our trade customers. So restaurants and retailers are seeing this.
Yeah. We're moving to 17 in 3 months or 4 months.
Okay. No,
So
beautiful wine now.
The retailers don't have 17 yet.
Let's move on to the 08 then.
Oh, wait.
What's interesting is you're 16 and then you taste your
Yeah.
2008. I like that. It's almost like you can see the 16 will be like that, when it has that much age, where it's already there and it just stays at this sort of suspended animation with slightly more complex aromas. And again, as you know, Pena always said, a great wine is great from the barrel, is great from the first bottling, and great in 10, 50, 100 years, where it maintains that character and balance, which I think is such a great concept, a great idea about wine.
And that almost the same Henri Jaillet would say that even a young one should be pleasurable. And I see that.
Totally.
But
That's
Katie,
the right word.
Katie sells. We actually really sell the 08. I think it's not a token. We actually sit on this wine because the owner of Cain has always known these wines age, and so we want to be able to offer something that has age, and so that's where we are. This is a reality.
Wow.
And when I go,
how much is it? Okay, how much is it?
Well, it's retails for 140.
140?
Mhm.
Wow.
So just to say, we have not changed prices since the 07 vintage.
Right, since the crash of 08.
No,
I know.
this is intentional.
Yeah,
Wine is
Yeah.
for drinking, not for looking at.
yeah,
So
I'm
we
with
want
you.
to be able to buy this wine.
yeah. That's true,
And on a wine list, it's going to be upwards of 250 anyway.
yeah, it's already a lot.
Yeah.
Good.
But
So-
anyways.
We're
Okay,
keeping
listen. I better run, but Chris, it was good to catch up, and Kate, nice to meet you. I look forward to seeing you next year.
you. Yeah.
And the tasting was really fantastic. Maybe it's easy. Maybe I'm not jet lagged, so I really thought I tasted them even better than what I remember tasting down at my house in St. Helena or up at the winery. But they really showed well today, and again, I'm sorry about what happened at the fire, but I'm happy that it's all going well again.
Thank you.
Big hug. Bye.
Bye.